It would have been wonderful to see the transfiguration, wouldn't it? I mean, someone like Jesus, who was a charismatic figure, but just looked like an ordinary guy, took a few of his disciples up to the hill, and then his clothes became dazzling white, and a kind of like a light radiated from him. And they also saw Moses and Elijah with him, and it's like, wow, wouldn't that be wonderful to see? And until recently, I thought that the light that came on Jesus was the light that was shined on him. But one scholar that I read recently said it was more a light coming from within him. That he was in such union with God that God's light in him, his Father's light, and shone through him. And that's how it became. And that makes all the more sense to me. Because Jesus is someone who knew the Father's love. In the baptism, when he was baptized before this, and then again today, he hears, "You are my beloved Son. The first time on you my favor rests, and this time you are my beloved Son." He tells others to listen to him. He knew the Father's love. And there he was, conversing with Elijah and Moses. And what a wonderful experience that was. It must have been. And it didn't last for very long, but he was just shining from inside of him and radiating out. And we're drawn to that kind of thing. I mean, who would you say today is like that? How about Pope Francis? The kind of the love of God that he radiates has affected anyone who's seen him in the world. People are coming back to the church just because of that. He's so kind to everyone, especially the poor and the disabled and all. It just radiates from him. And then we could think of other people that I hadn't seen a whole lot of, like Mother Teresa. They said, she's about that tall, but she commanded a presence because of what was going on, the presence of God in her life. Not light shining up, not a big halo, but rather it just radiates from her. And we too are called to radiate that same kind of love to others. How do you get there? Well, I think the same way Jesus did. First of all, to come to know the love of God. Can you hear? Have you ever imaged God saying to you, "You are my beloved daughter. You are. You're my beloved daughter. You are my beloved son. You are. You are. We are. We are all made in the image and likeness of God. And the more that we can come to believe that, the better off we are because it's the truth. We don't have to go around wondering, what do I got to do to earn God's love? It's like, all right, wrong start. God already loves us. You are my beloved son. You are my beloved daughter. To know that deep down inside. And the second thing we heard from the second reading was this. He says, if God is for us, who can be against us? Now, somebody might say, I can give you a short list of who's against me. But even when we can give that list, this is what's true. No matter who is against us, God is always for us. He's always on our side for our best interests. He is there to bring us to life. And that is what is to radiate from the core of who we are out to others. God's love and God's presence. Because we have that, then we can give that. And that's what we need to do, especially during this time of Lent. To develop a deeper relationship with God. And I ask you, Have you ever known anybody who kind of radiates that love? Not that you can see bright light shining from them or their big halo, but something else. Everybody say yes. Yes. Sure we have. It's not as rare as somebody might think. It's there because God loves us as we are, and sometimes we get it, and sometimes other people get it more than other times. It's there. I can think of a list of people that I know. Here, other places. It just there. It radiates from them. I'll just name two. There's an older priest, Father Robert, who lived with me. He's kind of like a grandfather figure. I think I've talked about him a little bit before. And he kind of radiated that kind of love, that kind of peace. He wasn't a flashy guy. He's kind of quiet, really. And if you'd watched him playing cards, you wouldn't say, well, he's a holier kind, but, it wasn't too bad. But there was something from in him that was just peaceful. And the love of God was just there. One of the holiest men I've ever known. He's kind of, like I said, a grandfather figure to me, and he had a stability that was there. And not too long ago, I was called and went to anoint a woman who was dying. I didn't know her. She belonged to another parish, but she was within our boundaries, so I went. And so I was down by her bed, and I was just kind of kneeling by her bed, and her sister was there. This woman was up there in age. She was a lot older. And so I was talking to her, and she was kind of weak, and talked with her and prayed with her, and then I anointed her, and her sister was there, like I said. And when it seemed like we were about done, I started to leave and got up, and she said, "Father, do you want to know how I pray?" Always looking for a good hint. I went, "Yeah, I do." She said this. She said, "This is how I pray. I say, Jesus, I love you. Jesus, I give my life to you. Jesus, I die for you." I pray that every day, all day long. You think the love of God radiates through her? Simple prayer like that. I started saying it myself. That's what it is. And that's the kind of love that God has put in us and wants to radiate out of us. The love of God. Because that mountain-type experience for Jesus is what led him through the rest of his life, especially his passion and death, knowing that God loved him and was with him through it all and enabled him to say, "Not my will, but yours be done." And knowing that love of God in our own hearts as well get us through our more difficult times, our struggles, our sufferings, our pains. Believing that God loves us like that. And to be able to say in return, "Jesus, I love you. Jesus, I live for you. Jesus, I die for you." The transformation comes from the inside out. Last week I used these two statues to show that, a hunk of wood and then the more finished Francis. We are transformed from the inside out. And during this season of Lent, we are invited to come to know God more deeply so that we might know him ourselves, that he might shine through us.